porch cowboy. It's a ginger grizzly bear with a super palate. Cigar Loons, invaders of the cigar world. Grumpy preacher, the conspiracy theory expert. Cigar Loons podcast, come and join us. Vitola and proof expert on all things spirits. Tobacco genie stitch director of special operations. Cigar Loons podcast, we are the invaders of the cigar world. Cigar Kurt, the front porch cowboy. As a ginger grizzly bear with a super palate. Cigar Loons, invaders of the cigar world. Preacher, the conspiracy theory expert. Cigar Loons podcast, come and join us.
Yeehaw! Oh, are we live?
Howdy. From America. And of course, our guest tonight is the bald head man, of course, Michael. So welcome, Michael, of course, to the Cigar Loons podcast.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me. Looking forward to the next hour.
Yep, the next hour. So buckle into your seats because you're in the loony bin, of course, in for a wild ride. And of course, we've got Michael tonight. And for anyone, of course, who wants to follow Michael, you can find him on Instagram at the bald head man. It's _ SSL, and you'll find him, of course, on Instagram. And go check out his content. A lot of different content. Well, of course. Hello, Grumpo. I see you, Grumpo, up there. You're out, my brother.
No, it just says the bald man. It don't say headed. They ain't never gonna find. They ain't never gonna find him like that, brother. You know how the internet is. One little dot, one little letter, and he's off out there in the black hole of cyberspace. They ain't gonna find him. Just say.
I stand corrected. I stand corrected.
Welcome, brother. Okay. Welcome.
I'm just gonna sit here and stay quiet, like Grumpy. Keep talking. He's doing my job for me. So, right ahead, my man.
Oh no, I got rocks to throw. No, I got rocks to throw.
But anyway, of course, let's get into it and let's get into the show. And of course, Michael, of course, when did you get into cigars? And tell us about how you found this wonderful world of getting into cigars. And tell us about yourself, basically, for anyone who doesn't know who you are.
Sure. Well, I didn't start in the cigar world as a business. I grew up in cigars. My father and my uncles were all big cigar guys. So I think it was around our 13th birthday or so. It was kind of tradition. They'd all sit you down and let you have your first full cigar on your own, and you felt like a grown up. And then, of course, got done, turned green, and tried your best not to throw up in front of everybody, and didn't get another one until you were 18. And then I probably got into cigars more seriously, a little over 30 years ago. I was living in London, and we were bored and wanted to get some cigars from my dad, and we wandered into Davidoff in London. And you can imagine the look, as you Brits know, seeing a bunch of college-age Yankees walking in. And pretty quickly, they realized I knew what I was talking about in terms of cigars, and all of a sudden we became their favorite college-age Yankees. And I think every Saturday afternoon when we didn't have classes, we'd head over there and smoke cigars. And thankfully, I didn't get any of those Cubans confiscated when I went home, and kind of went from there. And I sort of took a break, I'd say, at the end of the first sort of cigar boom. I was living in New York City, and you kind of had every every guy working on Wall Street as a broker who was spending, $60 for a rolled up paper towel. And I just decided this is crazy. And, probably about 6 years ago or so, some friends of mine live in town. All of our kids were in school, and we just decided, what, let's put on an event with some premium cigars and some fine scotch and kind of introduce a lot of guys to it and teach them about the industry. And it just kind of took off. We thought we'd have 20 guys. We had 40, then 50. And then coming out of COVID, we did one, and luckily we did it in one of the guys, back decks. We had, I think, 75 people, and I live outside New York City. I think half the New York Giants coaching staff was there, and went till 4 a.m. And I said,
that's
sure
awesome.
seems like we got something. And so the guys and I started passing around the hat and raising money. And for our next event, I reached out to Cigars for Warriors and said, hey, can you guys, send me some of those cool looking lapel pins, because I'd like to, do a fundraiser for you. And they said, great. When do you need it? And I said, Thursday. And they said, well, I don't know that we can get it for you on Thursday. And they said, well, that's okay. We're doing the fundraiser anyway. So they got them for us. And I think this was like 2 years ago, before the cigar companies, they lifted that rule that they weren't allowed to directly donate cigars. And thinking that one night we were the single biggest donator. We donated something like 700 and something cigars from that one event. And from there, it's just kind of snowballed. And my background is finance and venture capital and helping to grow companies. And I just kind of decided, if I'm going to work and do stuff, might as well do something I love. And that led to creating Ice Society and Ring Quest, and meeting up with Vince McGlone, who was the original founder and creator of Vicente Blends. And it's just kind of been a fantastic 2-year ride, I'll say, so far. I mean, I sit there with my guys now and look at them all the time, and I say, are we actually doing all this 2 years later? And we all say the same thing every time we go to an event or anything. We just look and go, who knows? But are we having fun? Just say we're having a hell of a lot of fun and love everybody we're meeting. And, probably most fun I've had in 30 plus years of an adult working in any profession. So.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's very, very interesting, of course, where you started to where you are now. And, of course, London, of all places. And we know, of course, like I've said to the guys, you go to London, you need a second mortgage when you go to London for buy cigars. And, of course, Davidoff's a really nice cigar lounge to go to. And, of course, the people that run the Davidoff down really nice guys, really nice family, and something. Big shout out to them. I just want to put a shout out, of course, to everyone that's watching us, of course, on YouTube, or of course to the people that are watching us on Instagram and on Rumble, and also a big shout out to our fellow Cigar Loon brother who's watching, Cigar Kate, and we hope, of course, vacation's going well, my brother. We all
yes, sir, buddy.
And of course, we only keep us all in check. So tonight we're not kept in check by Cigar Kit. I hope Catchy's a big one as well. I know he's always after my big one, but that's a different matter. Because I always take him on the cigars.
You mentioned Davidoff in London and the expenses.
See?
So maybe have to pull out my big ash again.
Yeah. You promised you were not going to brag on the lives anymore, so.
Listen, man, you know the rule.
You promised you wasn't going to brag.
You got to whip it out and show it to everybody. I mean,
that's right. No.
Do.
Yeah,
That's a different show.
Don't be doing all that, man.
We gotta do a paid subscription for that one.
Yeah, that's behind the paywall, brother.
That's more money right there.
Yeah, we gatekeep that material.
We'll do that for Halloween, right? For the horror episode.
There you go, man. That's it.
Exactly.
But of course,
Nightmare in England.
We just gone off topic a little bit, and I know
Cigar Loons OnlyFans. There you go. I just created another business for you.
Damn, let's go.
We got our own Werewolf of London over there.
Yeah.
Music heads will get that. The others won't.
Yep.
That's right. What's great about
I know you.
Yep.
Sorry, Michael.
No, I say you were mentioning, the cost of the cigars and Davidoff, and I was say, the crazy thing is that back then, I remember thinking, wow, I got to save some money before I go home because, I got to bring back things for my dads and uncles, and I splurged on expensive Davidoffs and Cubans that I brought back, and I think I was spending about $7 a cigar for them, and all I could think at the time was, I'm not even going to smoke these. I'm perfectly happy smoking my Fuentes at the time, which those were I was only paying about $3.50 a cigar for back then. So think about that compared to what we're dealing with today.
Yeah, something.
Y'all missed that on the duck out. Is that one of them pretty Vincente cigars?
Which one?
I said, is that one of those pretty Vincente cigars? I got bounced out there a minute ago on that phone call.
Yep, this is the. So I'm smoking the War. Here, I'll hold it up if you can see it. So this is the War.
Nice.
This it's a Cameroon wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, and Dominican filler that we have. This is probably one of our hottest sellers right now. I'm not sure whether it's the cigar or the ring, but everybody seems to be going crazy for it.
They're unusual.
That's the thing.
They are.
They are unusual. They are unusual. And that's the thing. You look, of course, at that one. You look, of course, the white box with the cigars and the ring on that one. They're very unique, and the ring sticks out. You don't normally see many cigars that have something distinct, and that is distinct.
But if this is the vault box that we have. This is our main vault box. The interesting thing about these is when Vince was first designing them, he wanted something that really looked like, a sophisticated, box that either, a woman could use as a jewelry box or a guy could use as like, your valet for storing your watch or anything else in terms of doing it. And the more he looked at other cigar companies and boxes, he just wasn't getting what he wanted. So these are actual jewelry boxes designed by a jewelry company. They're like 16-layer lacquered. I mean, it's incredible the work into them. And then the way he designed them on the inside with the woodwork and everything else, that whether you want to keep the cigar tray in it or take it out when you're done, you can use it as a valet, or you can simply put a Boveda pack in, and it actually does seal shut and will work as a humidor box, desktop box as well. I did put together a little display for you so you can see them all because I didn't have them all. These are all the different cigars that we have.
Put him on the big screen.
Yes. So you got I don't know, it's kind of hard to see from my side, but you got the gold standard.
There you go.
The palladium. Should I slide it over? This is the honor cigar. And then we've got War and Vicentari on the end, which looks like just the regular men's wedding band ring. That one is our retailer exclusive. That was a personal blend that Vincent started originally on his own that he wasn't going to distribute. And then when, friends and some retailers convinced him to start selling these retail, which, wasn't his original plan, he decided as sort of a thank you for them and for, helping to support it and spread the word, that those are only sold in brick and mortar. And, again, to us as well, I think it's, everybody goes online and mail orders and everything. I mean, it's like saying, you're not going to shop on Amazon. Of course we are, but, we're huge supporters that I think you can buy a cigar anywhere, but you can't get the cigar experience without having the great folks that run our brick and mortars. So that cigar you can only get in the brick and mortar shops from them directly.
Yeah. And of course, which brick and mortar shops are you in, Michael? Which areas are you in with them cigars, my brother?
Well, we're actually fairly spread out across the country. we kind of took an interesting approach to it, given where our cigars fit and the price points and things. And Vince, by background, before learning cigars and kind of becoming a master blender, is a tech entrepreneur and started a number of companies. I said I come from the VC background, so rather than just kind of going out selling, what we did last year was sort of like a tech beta test. We put it in 5 shops and sort of got feedback from them, what the customers thought. We tweaked it with the display and supporting them. And so we actually, fully started going live in February, and we're somewhere in I think 20 to 30 shops nationwide. We are in Cigar House out in California. We're in Tapanash in Las Vegas. We just recently opened with Embassy Cigar Lounge, which is one of the hottest new clubs in the country. They're in the suburbs outside Chicago. Cigars at Sunrise on Long Island. We're in Wooden Indian and a few others in Philadelphia. Trying to think a bunch of others. One of our best partners is Cigar Social QC in Quad Cities, Iowa. Chuck and Josh. I mean, if you're ever in that area, you got to go by there. I mean, 2 of the best tobacconists and best guys you'll ever meet. Just absolutely fantastic. And the good news is we're such a young brand that we thought we'd have to spend more time sort of educating people on them or convincing them to look at it. And my team now has probably got 30-40 lounges and tobacconists across the country that are all really interested and looking to smoke them. And we only have our first line out. Our next line isn't even coming out until probably October.
Cool. And well done to you. Like I say, within 2 years, and for you to be spread that much, of course, with the brand and be out, that is some fair work. So well done to you, and I take my hats off to you. And
well,
something, I like the boxes. I like the boxes, and I like the ring. I like the look of the cigars. Now, of course, I'm going to shut up a bit, and I'm going to let, of course, the brothers ask you some questions, and then I'll ask you some more, of course. But, of course, Jess, what's your questions, of course, for Michael, my brother?
All right. Well, I mean, first off, I want to say that the ring idea for your cigars is awesome, and I'm a jewelry guy, as you can tell, but I've never really come across anything like that before, and I think that's an awesome idea that you guys did that. I mean, there's so many people that collect bands, just like I collect bands, and to have something like that, like a ring, that's just pretty badass. How did you come up with the idea of having a ring versus a band?
Well, and to be honest, right up front, I did not. So this I give all the credit to Vince. I got involved. So Vince and I met probably about a little over a year and a half, 3/4, 18 months ago, a little more. Somebody just pinged me. I was the bald man on Instagram and sort of that whole following and involved with the industry and getting invited to some of the PCAs. And ironically, I think I was up working late because doing this kind of stuff, it was like finish work, 8, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, start dealing with the cigar world. And it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. Somebody sent me a message on Instagram, and I actually thought it was their company. And I wrote back a comment and I said, wow, those are really unique, just like you guys did. And Vince actually reached out and, responded back. And at the time, the person was down in Georgia. So I said, how did a guy in Georgia end up getting into cigars? Which, of course, he responded and said, I'm not from Georgia. He said, I'm in the Dominican Republic. I live here mostly now. He goes, but I'm from Philly. So I laughed and I said, well, I was from the Mid-Atlantic. Now I live outside New York City. And he was like, oh, man, I fly back and forth through the airport there. And, next thing I know, by 5 a.m, we're still texting. He's like, can I send you cigars? And I had the same effect. I opened these things up. I looked and went, "Oh my God, this box is amazing. These rings are incredible." And honestly, I didn't smoke them for almost a month because all I kept thinking is the last thing I want to do is pick that cigar up and smoke it and have everything about it be the ring in the box. And like, then how do I turn around and tell this guy they're terrible? And he pinged me one time, and I was finally like, "All right, I got to smoke it." And I was going to go see him, and I lit it up, and I think like most people I see, my eyes got wide, and I thought, wow, I mean, I have not smoked a cigar that has this kind of a draw and this kind of airflow and flavor. Probably going back those 30 years to when, Davidoff was still making primary Cubans and things in the early 90s, and you didn't have all the quality control. And I just called him up and I said, he literally, I pinged him on Instagram and just said, "What's your number?" And I don't think he stopped to think and sent it to me. I called him up on the phone and he answered the phone and I just said, "What the hell is this? And what are you doing?" And, we just became fast friends and talked all about what he's doing and how he wanted to market. And I just, again, with my background, I try to find people that are, really good at what they do, but also really creative and really passionate. And, I just listen to him. And as you can all tell, I'm a shrinking violet, really, don't like to talk and interact with people or anything. And, I think I sat there and barely spoke, for 3 hours, smoking a cigar, listening to Vince just tell me about these rings and cigars and, how he decided if he was going to do something like this, he wanted to bring back that, not monetary sophistication, but the old school sophistication of a cigar being an experience. It's something you take time with, you enjoy. It's, you participate with your friends, you make new friends on. And therefore, as he was doing that, he said he started designing it and he started sending them back to his brother and friends and things in the States, and they were loving them. And as COVID hit, he thought, you can't do this cigar justice by just putting like a paper band with a silly logo or something on it.
Right. Yeah.
And he started coming up with the idea, and then he came up with the idea for the box and the rings. So, going forward, now that I'm involved, I'll be happy to take tons of credit for all these things. But I got to give Vince credit. I personally refer to him, and I think he's starting to accept it, and people are picking it up. I call him the mad scientist. He's just one of those few people I know that is creative and smart, and his blends are incredible. And wait till you see what we're coming out with, our new line called the Sleeks that, assuming we get the band shipped in time, will be out in the fall. And I was just joking with him recently, and I said, Vince, most people, when they go 5 for 5 on cigars and rings and boxes like this, I said, they retire as the champ and walk away. I said, you got to be really confident, because we were going through ideas, and one day he just said to me, he goes, "Okay, this is my idea. This is where I think we should go with it. And I just want to try it." And literally, I just saw him last week. We got the boxes and the bands in, and let me tell you, they're incredible. They're like nothing you've ever seen before. So I give him all the credit on that. I'll take credit for RingQuest and SSL and Dice Society, and I'll fight with him and take as much credit on stuff we do going forward. But these boxes and bands are all Vince's. Well, I won't say genius. I'll say his mad scientist. 100%.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, of course, we'll go over to our resident preacher, Grumpy. And Grumpy, what's your questions, of course, for Michael, my brother?
Questions? My.
Yes, my brother.
Man, I tell you what, I'm gonna have to tune up my search skills, man. You're a hard fella to pin down and get good info on. But I'm glad you came in here and kind of wrapped up exactly what it is you do, what your part in this is. Because I was trying to figure that out, and it's like, well, okay, we'll find that out tonight, I'm sure. But there was a cigar I did run across, though, trying to, see what all I could find out. And it looked really, I mean, it looked really nice. It tweaked my interest. Do you know anything about that cigar that's called Blue Eyed Jack's Revenge?
That's
I
Adventure
do.
Grump, who we've had on as a guest. We've had Adventure
Do
on as a
what?
guest. That's
That-
Adventure make it. That was one of our guests. That's their new
Yep.
cigar.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Adventure
Well, I
Series.
obviously didn't run across that somewhere then.
It,
You were on the podcast, brother. You were on the podcast.
well, you probably, where you probably saw it was trying to look stuff up on me, because that's one of the other things I do, which is the RingQuest campaign, which is kind of a cross company marketing campaign that we put together for all the different cigar companies in the industry. And you probably saw it because we featured cigar this month, and actually the company we're doing this month is Adventura. And the idea behind RingQuest, which goes to when I with my partner Craig, and we created Dice Society about a year ago, is I would talk to everybody I knew in the industry and all my friends, from just guys I smoke with to smaller companies to some of the biggest names that we all know in the industry. And I kept saying to everybody, the one issue I find out there on the internet is, the cigar industry has done a great job of fighting back against these stupid regulations and the FDA, classifying premium cigars the same as other tobacco. And as we all know, it's just not. And thankfully we won. The problem, I think, is that the anti-tobacco Nazis have had their way for so long that most people out there don't get it. And, as you guys know, it's why we're all on here, right? We're a huge family, and they view this as a cigar is something we smoke. And as I like to say all the time to people is, no, a cigar is like dinner at your mom's or your grandma's house, right? It's like, let's be honest, most of the food wasn't that good, but what makes it great is getting together with family and friends, and it's the whole experience. It's the whole culture around it. That's what you think back on about that and you love. And I said, that's what this is about, right? It's about this. It's about guys like us that have never met in person and are, across the U.S. and overseas in Wales. And here it is. We can, because of this cigar, we jump on and we're all great friends and everybody's brothers and sisters. And, and I think if more people knew about that, cigars would be one of the most popular things out there. And truthfully, we'd have a lot less anger going on, in different places. Because think
No
about
doubt.
Definitely a lot more patience.
I don't know what any of your religions, political affiliations, nationalities, sexual orientations are. And quite frankly, I don't care. As I like to say, and I'll curse a little bit in doing it, I say, in the cigar world, we just have rule number one, which is the understood no asshole policy, right? We don't care what your job or your background is. You walk in, you sit down with a cigar, and if you're not an asshole, we're all equal and having a good time.
That's right.
So,
Gaz can't come.
I exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you go.
So, we started doing that. And
Oh, jeez.
we decided
There
to
we
have
go.
some fun with it. You hear constantly all the cigar companies, they're always talking about working together and we're one big family. And I was sitting around with some guys, Photo-esque SSL, Dapper Dog SSL. There's some family members of mine, some of my buddies. And we actually, Adventura was how some of this started, was last year. A fan had made a bobblehead of Henderson and actually put him on a goat because, kind of a joking nickname in the industry is he's the new young one of the new young up and coming goats. And we just created a whole adventure story last year and people were writing in. So this year we decided, you know what? Let's bring everybody in the industry in on it and create like an adventure story. So we started it with, over Easter that the ball band was having his Easter egg hunt and the great Easter egg and ring hunt, and the 5 Vicente rings got stolen, and now the bald man and the owl and his SSL crew are off on their adventure, and they go and in the first episode, if you go to any of our Instagrams, right on the different features, there's a button that says Ring Quest. You can see all of them to date, and the great Vicente in the cloud tells us on the Ides of Vicente on the 15th of every month, friends will be found and secrets will be revealed. And as people that have been tuning in for the last 4 months know, what that means is on the 15th of every month, the new friend is a new cigar company or somebody in the cigar industry. And the secret is a giant giveaway that people basically can follow us and repost and win. And, probably some of the single biggest giveaways we've done. I thank them very much. I love the guys, Jonas and Miyagi at Blackbird. Sight unseen, I called them up and said, hey, I have an idea. And they said, yes. I said, you haven't heard what the idea is? They said, Mike, if you're doing it, we're in. So they did the first one, the Cigar Clowns, Ray and Joe and the gang there, local New York City area guys. We did it with. Crowned Heads was last month, Adventura this month. And I can tell you, we're already booked through the end of the year, and we've got a whole bunch more great companies coming up. And, Grumpy, as you said, so this month, shout out to them because they're like family to us, Nicole and Henderson and Marcel, who, Marcel and Henderson are Adventura and McKay. Nicole, for anybody that doesn't know, is, the best of all of them. That's Marcel's wife, who me and the rest of the SSL guys are absolutely determined to make a cigar for her. We've coined her the Pirate Queen, and she's in a lot of the things. And they just launched, I guess, in their elite dealers this month, the Blue Eye Jack, and it'll be rolling out nationwide over the next few weeks. So you can see it on there, as well as actually, I think there is 2 days left. The first we announce it, so you got to get in by the first. If anybody that goes to the page and enters, you can win. We're giving away an entire box of the Blue Eye Jack. We're giving away a steel ashtray, a metal lighter, a metal cutter, and one of those really awesome roll-up map cigar carry cases that Adventura has donated. All of that will be going as the prize. So, yes, nice. I've smoked the Blue Eye Jack. I saw the new Adventura factory and visited with Henderson in May and got a sneak preview of it. And they sent us a bunch. And I can tell you this, not only will I say it's an awesome cigar, but I've smoked every one. I personally love their cigars. And up until now, they always knew nothing could beat the King's Gold. And I think Blue Eye Jack, at least temporarily, may be my new favorite of all the Adventuras.
Yeah, nice.
Awesome.
Of course.
Awesome.
And we had Anderson on, of course. We had Adrian Acosta on with him, and really great chat with them when, of course, we had him as the guest. And they were on about they got a new cigar coming out. We asked him, and of course, we didn't really know what it was. And of course, that's the cigar. And you know something, you don't throw a winner. You don't throw a winner with Adventura. Of course, we know what they do. Of course, with different cigars that are made there at their factory, of course, as well. And of course, before we get to Matthew, with doing this and of course supporting these other companies, man, is it just boutique companies that you're going to be supporting, or is there going to be the big premium cigar companies coming into it? Because here at the Cigar Loons, we're about boutique cigars, and we don't mind bringing premium on, but we like to showcase more boutique and talk about the boutique, because for a long time, boutique hasn't been spoken about, and we're big supporters of boutique. We are.
Well, I'm 100% with you there. I think there's a place for everything and everybody. And truthfully, that's kind of the point of bringing this all together is, and we see it. You go to PCA, for example, and, unfortunately it's the industry. And, that's kind of when you're not having these, the big conventions that fans get to go to and things, both when you have a break on the floor or after hours, everybody in the industry gets together. And, I honestly, I don't think there's a single person in the cigar industry that I've met or that I know that I would actually look and say, no, I don't like that person. They're all great people and I support all of them. I'm a firm believer in saying the way this industry grows and we all succeed is not to fight over an extra box on a shelf, but to grow, as I said, to grow the cigar culture and to grow our community so that we're not fighting over an extra box in one brick and mortar, but that we got 3 more opening in the same town and growing things. So the idea really is it's inclusive to everybody. If anybody's watching, if you guys have friends, if you talk to anybody, that you all have on the show that's interested, tell them to reach out. We welcome everybody. Certainly there's some big names, I guess I would say, Crowned Heads is the biggest so far that we've had out there. Adventura, I would say is on a national, now going international basis. But, a year, 2 years ago, I think they would have been categorized as boutique. And again, that's why we do what we do. And you guys do what you do, right? To help everybody grow.
Yep.
The Clowns are certainly boutique. And it is going to be one of our focus, which is we've made a real point that, going forward, certainly I'll let the big guys that are my friends as well participate. But we're not just going to do big guys. We're trying, if not every other month, every 1 to 2 alternating back and forth where, we don't just want to have the big name guys, but we want to feature a lot of boutiques, guys that, maybe are, the Clowns, for example, they're just starting to take off nationally. They just got into, Smoke Inn down in Florida. We all knew them up here in the Northeast. Most people in the country hadn't heard of them yet. So we really wanted to promote them. We're going to have in the fall, we've got 1 or 2 smaller ones that'll be coming out. And that's really going to be our focus, is to sort of alternate back and forth with names people know and, guys that we think are great. And we can say, hey, if you haven't heard of this, go get this cigar.
Yep. Well, we'll go down, of course, now to Matthew. And Matthew, of course, what are your questions, of course, for Michael, my brother?
So, hello. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right. My internet's been acting weird and my phone was overheating. So, lots of fun.
Oh, you're doing good. We can hear you good.
Yeah, you're good, man. Run with it.
So I wanted to bring up the website, Vincenta Blends. Some really cool stuff on here. I love the myth page with all the different myths and stuff like that. Especially the big ones like Cuban cigars are rolled on the naked thighs of virgins. Obviously that's bullshit. But
No, those are just
really
VBs. That's how we roll VBs. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, it's really interesting. I will say that your cigars on here are a bit out of my price range typically. But they do look really interesting. I love the branding. I love the band. So if I were to get some of these beautiful cigars, what would you suggest I pair with, for instance, the War? Isn't that what it's called? The War. Yeah. Gotta stop right now, by the way.
What would you pair with the War? So, all right. Well, first, before I answer that, I'll solve part of your problem, which is, when we were emailing the other day, and I know we were all crazy, and I was doing a lot of traveling, so we committed to doing this and said we were going to do it. I think over a month ago, and you guys pinged me, Thursday or Friday. I think it was like Thursday to say, hey, are you confirmed? I said, absolutely, it's in my calendar. And we realized we just didn't have time to send some out. So I will connect with you guys after we get off, and I'll make sure we'll get some samples out to you to let you, so you can try them and
Appreciate it.
Maybe in the fall when we launch the new line, we can come on and smoke some together. And you're right.
Definitely.
We acknowledge that the the VBs are in the, luxury lifestyle category. You know, it's kind of meant to be that way. We don't roll an excessive amount. It's a limited production that we do of them. We don't want to be rolling massive amounts. I mean, of course, as we grow, we'll grow a bit more, but we don't plan on making and rolling 2-3 million war a year, and mass producing them. And some of that goes into how we actually do it, and how we roll our cigars. One of the things that we do and we absolutely do it with our cigars is, most cigars are pressed for a few hours when they're put in the press after they're rolled. Every one of our cigars is pressed for an entire 24 hours in terms of doing it. And that's how we're able to set it and get that consistent draw you get every time. And in order to do that and to roll the cigar properly and to roll it with the techniques that Vince has developed, as I mentioned before, he's a mad scientist. He wasn't a cigar guy to begin. He was a double engineering major. That, literally, as you guys know, depending on the cigar, a good cigar roller can roll 200 to 500 cigars a day. Our cigars are 100 to 125. And truthfully, even if we're not there, if our floor manager's there, if we go in and our rolling teams are in, mid-afternoon and they've hit 125 already, we just look at them and say, just stop, because these cigars aren't good. We know that we're not taking a huge chunk of them. And in the beginning, they would look at Vince like he was insane, and he would just say, look, I know it, because you can't roll and fold it and put it together the way we do it. If you're rolling them that fast, I don't even have to look at the cigar. It's not good. So, because of that, we do have to charge a little bit more. And, as you said, looking at the website, right, some of the myths and other things, one of the other ones that it was one of the things that I loved when I first met Vince and I read it on the site, is he writes right on there that, the only real question that we get from times is people saying, hey, they're kind of pricey, or they're, at the high end of the spectrum or whatever. And, it's not something I can smoke regularly. And Vince wrote it right on the website. We have it right there front and center. It says, we don't expect, nor do we want you to smoke them every day. This is not an everyday cigar. It's an experience. And, you should smoke it once a week, once a month, in terms of doing it. Now, that I will say is that I'll throw in a little bit of a plug, which is, as you know, we don't make different sizes. Each cigar is unique. It's one size, one blend. So we have 5 cigars right now, and they're all, kind of in a large Toro. We're going to be coming out. We've teased a little bit online with a new line called the Sleeks. They're going to be San Andreas based, but I'll tell you again, like our cigars, they don't taste like any San Andreas you've ever smoked. They're going to be 3, again, distinct blends. They'll be known as they're coming out, we're calling them the Sleek Gold, Sleek White, and Sleek Black. They're going to be a different size. They're going to be a 6x48, basically a kind of slightly short Churchill. And as I said, if all goes well with the bands, those will be out in October. Initially rolled out to our exclusive retailers that carry the collection line. And I'll leave the pricing to them to when we do the final announcement, but I can say it's going to be more than 25, probably 30% plus below, at least below the current prices. So it'll be more moderate for people to be able to smoke. We're not going to have metal bands, but we're using another kind of material that, as far as we're aware, we haven't seen in the industry, that I think will be a very kind of cool look and feel to it as well, in doing that. And so, certainly we'll be happy to smoke some of those and come back when we roll those out. In terms of what I would smoke with it, before I give you the answer you want, I would say a Diet Coke with a full glass of ice is the answer to smoking the war. And a Dr. Pepper, Diet Dr. Pepper is even better. That may be my favorite. I just think the the complexity of the cigar and the Cameroon mixing with the Nicaraguan and Dominican tobaccos, there's just something about, and I say the Diet Coke or Diet Dr. Pepper, just because I think it adds a crisp cleanness to the palate that then when you inhale the draw you get off of our cigar, as somebody who's a partner with us commented when he first started smoking them, he took a big puff compared to a lot of other cigars, and he said, "Wow, it's like marshmallows." And at first we thought, "How are you tasting marshmallow?" He said, "No, it's like that feeling when you get a really fluffy marshmallow. Like I can feel it, but it's so light and fluffy that, that's what I would recommend." I would tell you when I smoke this with the Cameroon, my favorite is probably a good rum, a really good Dominican rum is one of my favorites there. If I want to go a little bit fancier, I think it goes very well with a port. It also goes fantastic with Armagnac. Just depends whether you want it a little bit sweeter, fruitier. The benefit is I think it picks them all up.
Great. Yeah, and just to be clear, I totally respect you guys' price range. I understand why you're there. It just, I just had to ask the question.
Oh, and I did. I took it exactly as stated. No, there was no offense. I totally understand it, and I appreciate it. Yeah.
When you look, of course, at the price point on your boxes, of course, and I've just had a look, of course, on it. It's $420 a box, which in UK price is £327.06. It's pretty much the same price as I'm paying for a box of Presencia Alma Fuente, and of course the black that I pay for over here in the UK is the same price. Sometimes you think price point and the range, but then, like you said, for the amount of work that goes into it, of course, the ring as well, the boxes, you can understand why your price point is up there. And of course, like you said, you don't expect everyone to smoke your cigars. It is one of them where you take your time with it. Of course, if you buy it, you're not going to smoke a full box. Of course, you're going to take your time. You're going to look after them. And that's the thing. And you know something? People need to try them. And thank you, of course, for the offer of sending them out. And of course, when you get them made, definitely we'll have you back on, of course, and we'll do that.
Yeah.
Now, let's get into, of course. Go on, Michael.
I was just going to say, when you say on the price points, as I said, there's, obviously some explanation for it. Obviously in that way, and I admit, and I'll say, obviously, I'm biased because, I'm a partner in the company. But as I said before, the reason I agreed to, join Vince and help him grow this company was because I smoke these cigars and, they are an experience. I'm the first person. I always say to people, they'll say to me, "Is this one good? Is that one good? What's the best cigar I should smoke?" And I always say, I'm sure you guys know it, right? The easy answer is the best cigar is the one you like. I like people for those guys in the States. I don't know if it's made it over to England yet. Baskin Robbins ice cream. And I always look at people and I say, they don't call it Baskin Robbins one flavor for a reason. What I can tell you is I can tell you if a cigar is a well-made cigar or not. Sure, I can tell you if it's garbage, right. But, you may like a certain type of cigar and that flavor appeals to you versus to me. And I think the great thing we have, as you mentioned, certainly with a lot of the smaller new boutique companies out there. And by that, I just like to say, I'm talking about the real boutiques, the men and women out there that are blending their own blends and creating new things and selling them, not people that are taking secondhand factory smokes and, putting a paper band on it. And that again is where your local tobacconists really bring value because they know which ones are which, in doing that. One thing I'll say is, our cigar may not be your favorite cigar. It may not be your palate, but I unequivocally will put this cigar up against any cigar out there that exists at any price. And the one thing that I'll stand by is you will not get a more consistent, better, old-fashioned draw on any other cigar. There are a few out there that, some that are, the draw is as good, but cigar to cigar, it is absolutely fantastic the way Vince has designed the structure and engineered the cigars every single time. That's the experience. And I think I paid for them before I got involved with the company. And truthfully, even now, I smoke enough of them that I pay for them myself.
Yeah, so of course, Cigar Kate, our fellow Cigar Loon brother, has put a comment. And he's put, are the cigars available for purchase online anywhere?
Yes.
On their website.
So, yes, on our website, vicenteblends.com. If you go to the website, we're going to be updating it, but I believe if you look right at the top, I believe there's a tab that is called, it says the acquisition, and you can purchase the 10-count boxes. We also right now have a 4-count flip box where you can get, as I said, one of each of the Honor, the War, the Palladium, and the Gold Standard. This Centauri you can only buy in shops. We will be, in the fall, we'll be rolling out probably 4 packs for each of them as well. And I can't disclose it yet, but I would say hopefully by if not September, October, we may have a number of other retailers as well as some major online name that'll be making them available as well.
Cool. And then I just do want to put a big shout out, of course, to our sponsors, of course, of the Cigar Loons podcast. So I want to put a big shout out, of course, to Famous Smoke out in the States, of course, Cigar Page out in the United States, Online Cigars, of course, in Switzerland, and of course, my good friends at GQ Tobacconists here in, of course, Stoke-on-Trent in England. So big shout out, of course, to our sponsors, and thank you, of course, for sponsoring the podcast and making this a regular thing on a Tuesday and being behind us all the way with what you do for us.
So can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah, sure.
So my question is, as I told you, kind of how I came into this, and obviously as a longtime cigar smoker and fan, and you can see with all the companies that I work with and everything, I'm certainly not somebody that's going to sit here and only speak of and talk to and show our cigars, and the VB team. I love cigars. I'm always out there trying cigars. I smoke my friends' cigars. People come to me all the time and say, here, try this, and I'll try it. So, I love finding new boutique cigars and things like that. So my question to each of you guys is, for each of you, tell me what boutique cigar out there do you think is a great cigar that if I haven't tried, I should smoke?
Oh man.
I already know mine, but I'm gonna let the other guys go first to see if they do choose the same one as me. So, go on, Jess.
Wow, man, there's just so many good cigars out there. When talking about boutiques, that is really, really hard to narrow it down. But I am gonna have to, even though I've only had one cigar, I'm gonna have to go to this cigar that I had yesterday, and it's the Rojas Breakfast Taco. I absolutely did not want that cigar to end. I mean, you always have a cigar that is really good, and you're like, oh, that was great. I can't wait to have another one. I didn't want to wait to have another one. I didn't want that one to end. It was so good. So I would say right now it would be the Breakfast Taco.
Grumpy, what about you?
Good one.
Well, a couple of them I haven't had the pleasure of having yet, but would be over in like the Tabernacle Olmec variety, which you've probably had both. Foundation. And then a couple I have had is the Nica Rustica and the Nica Rustica Adobe. I've enjoyed both of those very well. So, and you probably had all four of those, but I mean, you know,
I've not had the opportunity to try the Adobe. I've heard good things about it. I've had the Nica Rustica, very good cigar. The Olmec I have had, and those guys, as everybody knows, you know, they're the kings of Connecticut broadleaf, and they do a great job with that. And I would probably say if I had to pick one Connecticut broadleaf San Andreas, other than or Connecticut shade and San Andreas blends, other than the sleek white that we're going to be releasing in October, I'd say you can't go wrong with Foundation. They just know what they're doing when it comes to Connecticut.
Yeah. Matthew, what about you, my brother?
So, I mean, I am a known fanboy for diesel cigars, so I would say the Esteli Puro is one of my absolute favorite cigars. And I mean, on the other side of things, I guess the Dumbarton Umbagog is the other one. I just absolutely love it.
So are we allowed to call Steve a boutique at this point? I mean, come on.
No.
People's balls.
No, not really. But it used to be at least, right?
And don't get me wrong. I love Steve's stuff. You know, I love Lafferty. You know, I'm not going to mention that. You know, Lafferty, if you're watching, you still owe me a call about when you're going to do Ring Quest. You haven't returned my call. Just saying. You're the only guy in the industry that hasn't responded. I didn't say that. It just slipped out. But, you know, hey, you know, even those guys like to bust balls. But come on. I love Steve. I love Dunbarton. You know, everybody calls them Saka cigars in terms of doing that. But, you know, size-wise, yes. I don't think we can call Steve that. I mean, he was kicking ass with Drew Estate, and honestly, has the man produced a cigar that isn't good? You know, and everybody knows Steve. I mean, he's just, you know, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
What's yours, my man?
Of course, cigar. Well, Cigar Kate said, of course, Caldwell Eastern Standard Cypress Room Touring. So that's, of course, Cigar Kate's. If it was here, that's what he would say. I've been very fortunate with my kind of background of where I started in cigars. And I've smoked a lot of boutique. From the likes of Christoph, which, of course, now isn't boutique. From the likes of Karenberger to Protocol Cigars. But if I were to choose two, I would definitely say Espinosa, the 601 Maduro. I absolutely love that cigar. I think it's a great cigar. And then, of course, I'm going to go with Foundation. And I'm going to go with the original. That's now, of course, the Askham, but I had the Metape. And I really enjoyed that cigar. Of course, we know they had to change the name. And it's now the Askham, but I really enjoyed that. I've enjoyed the Olmec, of course, the Tabernacle, the Charter Oak. And I've enjoyed, of course, their infused range, of course, the Django. And there's a lot of cigars over here that are boutique. And I smoked PG cigars yesterday, which was the Commando. That is a great barber pole. And the way it's designed, it's got the camouflage barber pole. So it's the camouflage, of course, of what the Commando soldiers used to wear. And it's got the Candela, of course, it's got the Connecticut, it's got Maduro. And I've smoked a lot of boutique cigars, and I'm very fortunate enough now. There's more are coming. And I've got to say, of course, Black Label Trading Company, The Last Strikes. I absolutely love that cigar. I think it's a great cigar. Even the Killer Bee by Black Studio Works, which is their sister company, is another great cigar. And it's why I enjoy boutique cigars, because there's a load out there that you've got to try. Don't get me wrong. I like, of course, Arturo Fuente. I like Jesse Newman. I like Drew Estate. I like the big companies, John as well. But if I can find a boutique company that I don't really know about, I'm going to try their cigars. And in my order that I've got coming within the next week, I have got some of Adventura's cigars because, of course, they're here in the UK. I haven't tried them yet, and I'm going to be trying Adventura. And we've just had Aladino cigars come to the UK as well, so I'm going to be trying some of Aladino as well and seeing what they're all about.
Those are everyone you mentioned. I agree with all great companies, great cigars, even better people. You know, again, I know I'm a broken record going back to it, but that's the amazing thing is it's like every person you go from one to the next, and you know everybody's great. And look, I agree with you. You know, it's like anything else, right? We don't all go out and eat cheeseburgers every meal of every day. We all smoke tons of cigars. Just because you say this one's good doesn't mean you don't smoke 20 others or 50 others. You know, I hate to say it, it's a bit of a sickness, but just from friends and people that have given them to me, I've got multiple towers just in my house that I keep cigars that, you know, friends in the industry have given me. And there's so many that if I tried to list them or didn't list them, you know, from those people to, you know, Mike Kirklotz and Brendan of Ferry Otego, who are neighbors of mine. They live about 10 blocks away from me, Mike does, that are great, but, you know, he's much more well-known, to the Fuentes, who are, you know, just some of the most fantastic people I've ever met. When I started getting really involved from a business standpoint, I mean, they just embraced me like family. You know, I know everybody sees them. If you haven't had a chance to meet any of the Fuentes, not just Carlito, it is not a thing you see on the internet. You know, their love for everybody in the community and everybody is family. You know, so I think if I had to throw a couple out there, I'll go really deep and go really small. Because when I think boutique, I think, you know, really small guys that aren't nationally known brands and things. You know, I'll throw one out. If you haven't tried it, believe it or not, they're out of Milwaukee or either Milwaukee, Green Bay, Wisconsin. The state of Wisconsin is a cigar called Lovely Cigars. And I know that sounds silly, and we think today's day and age, who the heck names their cigar Lovely Cigars? Well, it turns out these guys did their homework, and 100 years ago, at the turn of the 19th to the 20th century, when there were thousands of cigar companies across America, the main cigar company up in Upper Wisconsin, where they are, was called Lovely Cigars, and they acquired the name, and they actually found an original, like 100-year-old Lovely cigar box, and those guys just make great cigars. If you get an opportunity to look them up. The other one, and you know, I don't have to worry about his head blowing up because I know he's with the Dapper Dog right now smoking cigars, and which tells me right away they're not paying any attention to what I'm doing tonight or listening to me. You know, has to be Greg Free with Portalenza Libre. Greg's out of Virginia, makes his cigars primarily in the Dominican. You may have seen them. They've got like a big bullhead on them. I'll tell you this, they are not for the faint of heart. Greg, once I said, give me a light one. I don't think he knows how to make a light cigar, but they are fantastic. Fortalenza Libre, if you get a chance, you know, try those as well. Greg's a great guy. I think he recently just became president or chairman or something of the BCA as well. So those would be two that I give a definition of that I smoked recently.
Yeah, and you know something, we've been very fortunate with the Cigar Loons group, and I want to put a big shout out, of course, to David Spat, of course, from EP Carrillo. And David, of course, used us and brought, of course, the Encore Black onto the show just before it came out to PCA, and we were very fortunate enough, of course, to do that review. So a big shout out, of course, to the EP Carrillo family for, of course, giving us that opportunity. But you look at West Tampa with Ricky Rodriguez, of course, started at CAO Cigars, for CAO. Now, of course, with West Tampa, big friend of the Cigar Loons, Ricky Rodriguez. So another big shout out to Ricky and with what he's done with West Tampa. And of course, we're looking very much forward to the circle of life, of course, that he's done with Ernesto and the journey of that cigar. And there's a load. You look at Drunk Chicken, another family boutique cigar company that brings cigars out and female owned. And you've got to look. There's a load out there.
So have you tried the
When you
Circle of
look
Life?
at the cigar list,
You guys had that yet?
Grumpy has, and Cigar Kate said. And Grump, what did you think of the Circle of Life when you smoked it, my bro?
It's a very well put together blend. Got a lot of flavor to it. You know, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really did. It was a good one,
Well,
along with all the rest.
I agree with you. It's it's you can see both Rick and Ernesto's fingers on it. You know, and the partnership there. I had one. In fairness, I enjoyed it. I couldn't elaborate further because it was at PCA, and truthfully, between the air conditioning blasting and being out in the desert, it was so dry that we're running so much and trying things that I wouldn't be fair if I was trying to review every detail. I think people like it. I will say to people, be prepared. It's not like any West Tampa you've had. Obviously, they've all been Nicaraguan before and the Dominican. So, I think it's going to be new. I think it's great. You threw out those names. I was actually just talking to David Spurt a couple days ago. Another fantastic person, and Rick Rodriguez, again, one of these kind of people. It was like I met Rick, and I think 10 minutes later, we were supposed to chat for half an hour, and we ended up spending 2-3 hours. And ironically, I give Rick a huge shout out, because not only anybody that does things with their family, but somebody like Rick who steps out and to do it with his daughter. And Sarah is amazing. If you haven't met her, one of the loveliest people in the world. I adore them both. And I think it's fantastic that not only are they doing it, but again, you say expanding the our community, seeing somebody like Sarah, who is, fairly new to the industry, is compared to all of us gray beards or long beards on here, is young, is a woman, and just watching what she's doing in the industry it's fantastic. So I love all those guys.
Yeah. I just want to put a quick shout out, of course, to our cigar competition winner, which, of course, is AJ Jarvis. And we hope you're doing great, my brother. We hope you're enjoying, of course, your 50 cal cigar pick. I'm going to, of course, be using my antler pick in a minute, of course, in my cigar that Cigar Kate made. So you can catch them. I, of course, to Whiskey Tube. So Whiskey Tube's just come and joined us. And Whiskey Tube is, of course, watching. So big hello
What's
to
up, Whiskey Tube?
of course. And
There you go,
50
brother.
cal, of course, that Jesse's got. But let's get in. I know we're coming into that hour, but of course, we haven't really.
I'm having fun. I'll stay
as Society.
Questions.
So, can you tell us more about? So, can you tell us then, Michael, more about, of course, Ring Quest, how that came about, and then, of course, Die Society, and how that came about? Can you tell us more about them, please?
Sure. Well, as we said with Ring Quest, and I'll give the backhanded slap credit to Photo-esque SSL, who's the owl in it. And I can do that because he's my older brother. So, I'm allowed to bust balls while doing it. That started one day at the gym, and we were on our last weight workout of the day. And luckily I was exhausted because I almost killed him. Because between Dice Society and the Bald Man and Vicente Blends, we had just wrapped up doing this whole kind of, Goat in the Wild campaign, as I said, kind of having fun with the Adventura folks and Henderson, who, don't be fooled. He looks mean and grumpy sometimes when he's on video, but he's the best guy you'll ever meet in terms of doing that. And he looked at me, and we were kind of thinking, hey, something else. And I was, getting ready for PCA and talking about, Dice Society. And, again, part of my whole thing with Dice Society was that I wanted to do something that could be an online platform. We have, if you're guys like us that are really into cigars, people watching this are into cigars, they know where to go. They know about cigars. They're okay walking into a shop. What about that guy? Like when I started doing these, charity events with my buddies in town, and we're bringing in the guy that, shows up a couple times a year because he wants to hang with his buddies and says, I'll try a cigar. Let me learn. Right. That guy is intimidated. Right. He's like the little 5 foot tall kid in 8th grade when all of his buddies have hit puberty and he hasn't grown. He just wants to shrink in the corner. And, they're intimidated. They don't know where about podcasts like you all. They don't know where to learn these things. Something like Cigar Aficionado or Cigar Half Wheel and things. Those are for people that know what they're reading about. And if you want to join in a cigar club, you want to herf with people. How do you know whether it's Deadleaf, the Ashholes, Hooligans, all these groups? How do you know where to go? So we created a page for that. How do you know what charities they're involved? We've got one on there that's comic strips. Guy did a fantastic thing. I think he's done 6 or 7, where he does interviews and cigar reviews. And instead of sitting here doing it live on video like we're doing, he turns them into comic book graphic novels. So, and I thought it goes both ways. Anything somebody's interested in, we don't have a central hub or a portal for people to find it. And I want people, when they go there, to say, wait a minute, cigar guys aren't a bunch of, grumpy middle-aged men, sitting in the back of a dark room puffing on cigars. We have interests as widespread as everybody around the world. And if you like it, you can find it. So the idea of the Dice Society, and that's why I say it's a society and it's about that, is I'm not looking to produce anything. I'm not looking to create anything. I don't want to do a podcast. You guys already do it. You do it great. By the way, I didn't get a chance when we started. Best introduction of any podcast I've seen yet. Fantastic. Those graphics, right? So I don't want to compete with you. I don't want to start another thing. What I want to do is I want to create a platform. And here's my little pitch to you guys. We want to simulcast the Cigar Loons and create a page on Dice Society, so new people learning about cigars can find the Cigar Loons and say, "Ooh, that's cool. Let me watch them. These guys are great. They're chilled. They're not uptight. They're not intimidating. And look at how much I learned." I've got some chefs on there. I've got Belkis Sanchez, who's with Crowned Heads. Everybody knows Belkis now. Who's doing an etiquette thing, and she does little 30-second splits. I mean, one of them just made me laugh. She did recently called your lap is not an ashtray. One of the ones we're about to launch is some of my good friends, Mac and Barbara of G&S Chocolates. If anybody doesn't know that, chocolate is a fantastic palate cleanser when you're smoking cigars, especially between cigars.
Yes.
They make unbelievable gourmet chocolates. I'm looking to do some things with them, maybe with VB with them, and the high type of things. They don't just make your regular chocolate-coated almonds. They make blueberries and cherries, and they just blew my mind because I just went to their site and I said, "You're holding out on me." They have dark chocolate-covered cranberries. I've never even tried them. I called Barbara. I said, "Barbara, you got to send." So, anybody that has something that they think is creative or unique, we want it to be community driven. And, our job in running it is not to be the Dice Society, but to make sure that anybody that's got something we can put out there. And look, I'll give the guys credit, Mike Herklotz, Rick Rodriguez, Carlito Fuente. When we were getting it started, I wanted to show people, because people were saying to me, well, so you're creating another website, you're going to have podcasts, you're going to compete with this podcast or that podcast, or, you're going to have articles, so you're trying to, you know, compete with Half Wheel or all the other guys that do great? And I said, no, we want to be like the hub. We want to be the town square. And I was sitting there with him one day, and I just turned to him and I said, you know, with Carlito Fuente, and I said, Carlito, will you support it? Because if you'll support it, you know, how can anybody say no, they're not going to, you know, support it
Yep.
and support everybody? And, you know, I think that's the first video. I think it still may be up on there. And he just turned to the screen. I mean, I didn't even ask him to do it. And he just said, you know, turns around and he goes, you know, hey, my friends and family, join me, join the Dice Society. And so that's kind of become our motto. You know, join us, join the Dice Society. If you're a cigar person, you're part of the community, you're already a member. If you've got an idea, join us, you know, give us ideas. And so Ring Quest kind of came out of that. We were finishing the Adventura Goat in the Wild thing, and Jason, who's Photo S, turned and looked at me that day and he says, you know, you're doing all these things and you've got all these friends and all these different companies, and we did a giveaway. What if we did something where instead of it being a one-off thing, we created, you know, an adventure story? And we were just talking to some people, and, you know, they were talking about the Lord of the Rings show that was on Amazon and the new, you know, Marvel shows. And he just had this idea. And I just looked at him and said, you're going to give me another 40 hours of work to do? I mean, if you see the kind of things we make, these movie poster things. And to his credit, he looked and he said, I promise I got your back on this one. And then he turned around the dapper dog and he said, and don't worry, I'm going to enlist him to do it as well. So I said, fine, if you do it. And like I said, you know, I didn't know if it would work, but I'm a guy who I put my ass where my mouth is. If I say I'm going to do something or I believe something, I stand by it. And, you know, I look up and say, we all need to work together. So we came up with this idea. We set it up. We had the initial, you can see the initial storyline, you know, on the Instagram page. And like I said, I called Blackbird the week before, and, you know, they said yes. And I said, I promise I'll show you what we're going to do before PCA, and went out to PCA and just started walking around to friends first. And I said, look, here's my idea. And they all looked at me like I had three heads. And I said, trust me, here's some of the graphics. I promise it's going to look good. I will let you do it. And, you know, it just keeps snowballing. Like, you know, each month we're getting people now, the 13th, 14th, they're starting to ping us and say, don't forget, tomorrow is the Ides of Vicente. Like, they're reminding us that we need to reveal the new, you know, who the new friend in the giveaway is. And, you know, each one is kind of building on the next. And, you know, it's great because it shows that here are these companies, when you think about it, technically every one of them is a competitor, right? They're selling cigars. Could you imagine seeing Coke and Pepsi and Schweppes all get together and say, you know what, let's go make a movie, and we're gonna put our brands together, and we're all gonna support the same thing, and we're gonna let everybody have an episode and be the star of the episode. They'd never do it. They would rather have nothing and no exposure to the industry than do it. And I'll give the industry credit. Every person that we have reached out to, the first couple, I got a sentence or two back of, wait, explain to me a little more so I understand what it is. And as soon as I explained to them what it is, it was, we're in. When you want us, we'll slot in whatever you need us. Tell us what you want. And we've said to them, look, if we do it, we want this to be big. We want whole boxes and swag and everything, you know, not a 3-pack or a hat. And you can see, I mean, they're jumping on board. And, you know, like I said, gotta bust balls again. Lafferty and Saka, you're the only guys that haven't returned our phone call. I'm just saying. But other than that, like I said, I think we have maybe 1 or 2 slots left before next year's PCA. We're already, we've got commitments, and I've got guys that are backups, certainly amongst the boutique guys, because we want to create those slots that, you know, have reached out to us and said, try my cigars, and we said these are great, and they're like, if you can put us in, and it's just been fantastic. The whole industry's come together, and we have a cigar industry adventure story that's going on Instagram called Ring Quest.
Cool. And You know something? This is why you do this and why you get together and having this around and people leaning and going to different pages, because yes, there is a dozen podcasts out that you can listen to, like ours, of course, different ones that are out there. You look, of course, at the different clubs that are out, and of course, name a couple. When we got this together, and when we designed the Cigar Loons, we were just a bunch of guys going on TikTok and we were getting bans for smoking a cigar. So we said, oh, you know what? Let's go on Discord, where we're not going to get any bans. We can be ourselves. If we want to talk about religion, okay, we can talk about religion. If we want to talk about politics, we can. If we want to go down the rabbit hole, we go down the rabbit hole, don't we?
That's
we
it, man.
I like the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Then, of course, the idea then came around to having, of course, the podcast. And we never thought we were going to have the likes, of course, of VP Carrillo, the likes of Hiram and Solomon, Drunk Chicken, many more that we've had on. And, of course, another one that we've got coming next month, which I can't give too many details about, but it's a big name in the cigar industry that's going to be our guest. And you know something? We're very fortunate. And what we try and do is bring out the content about cigars on boutique cigars or cigars that we're smoking and just have a laugh about it, because you know something? It's nice to have this where you can sit with people from all over. Like I say, you look at the guys that I hang around with, like Jess, Matthew, and Grumpy. Got Kurt. Kurt lives in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Grumpy, Florida Panhandle. Jeff, of course, Washington. Matthew, you're going to kill me, but you're in Cleveland, Ohio, aren't you? I have got that right.
Yeah.
Please say I've got it
That
right.
general
Please say.
area.
Grumpy, I didn't hear.
I got it
Where are
right.
you from? Where are you located?
I got it right.
I'm in the Florida Panhandle.
Oh, great.
I'm just south of Dothan. I'm about halfway between Dothan, Alabama, and Panama City Beach.
Ah, love the Gulf. It is gorgeous. That water is fantastic. Absolutely.
Yes,
amazing.
sir. Widest
Absolutely.
beaches you'll find.
That's the only thing I need over here is warm water.
That's
I
right.
just got Lake Erie. Nobody wants
Yeah.
to go
But,
there.
look, you're absolutely right, and that's the thing, and I look at what I've done, and I'm just scratching the surface, and to me, I mean, I'm a baby piker getting started in this industry compared to the, just think of the names we threw out already just in the last 10 minutes, right? Ernesto Carrillo, David Spurt on the business side, Rick Rodriguez, Steve Saka, Mike Kirklotz, Carlito Fuente. I'm trying to think of who else we just named. I apologize, anybody, and I could go on and on. I mean, the Gomez family, the Padrones, and the amazing thing is that's what's so great about this community is, tell me any other industry out there where, 4 guys from across the country and across the pond, and a bald man, right, can get together and say, you know what, we're going to do this. Sure, we could do it. There is no other industry out there. And trust me, like I said, I spent
None.
30 years in investment banking, venture capital, Wall Street, Silicon Valley. I could tell you this. I could have been at it for 20 years. I worked in the company. I think I ran into the CEO, Jack Welch, and Jeff Immelt later, maybe twice. In all the years I was there, and I worked for the company, running a huge division in their venture capital units and things like that. We're talking about legends, not even CEOs of companies, right? I mean, these people are legends and will be remembered decades and decades after they're gone. And yet you pick up a phone and sure, they may not be able to jump right away. We're all busy. They're running companies. They're traveling. But over time, if you're a good person and you reach out, like, they'll get on and they'll do that. You see these guys and I feel for them. And now I start understanding it because I've had to do some of my own. But, I would watch these guys and I would think, man, they go on the road and they will sit there in a cigar shop till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning so that they can say hello, smoke a cigar, take a picture, and autograph a box for every person who wants to come through. And they'll turn around and do it tomorrow and the next day. And in between, they'll go back to their hotel room and they'll get on these podcasts. You know, that's what's amazing about our industry, and it's what allows us to do what we do. And I can't thank them enough. You know, I cannot thank them enough. You know, every single person. And like I said, as much as I'm having fun with them, and I will still keep chomping on them till I get them on RingQuest. You know, even Steve Saka. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm sure you guys all know what Steve looks like, and you know, I've lost a lot of weight, but I'm a big muscular guy. I play contact sports. I'm not intimidated by anybody. And the first time I walked in at PCA, and Steve was sitting in his, you know, throne chair in the back of his booth, and I'll tell you, I'm thinking, man, do I really want to walk up to this guy? I mean, he looks like the lion in the back of his den. He's going to eat me before I get a word out of my mouth. And I walked over and I started to introduce myself, and he didn't even wait for me. It was like I was there. I was one of the family, and he just stood up and he was like, "Hey, how you doing?" and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I kind of looked and I wasn't sure because at the time, you know, the Sober Mesa, you know, Roulette Blue was not as popular as it is now. And I really loved that cigar as a morning cigar. And I looked at it and I said, you know, I got to tell you, haven't smoked all your cigars, and I'm not, you know, an aficionado like you or any of these other guys. I said, but I love that cigar. It is just unique and subtle and got great tones. And he just kind of smiled and he looked at me, and you know, I'm sitting there listening to their guys telling everybody coming through, you're a retailer, we don't have samples or anything. And he just kind of looks at me and he kind of smiles, and somebody was calling to walk away, and he goes, yeah, I got to go. And he turns and looks at me and he goes, by the way, trust your own palate. You're dead on. And sort of palmed me one of the cigars. And I think I was like the only person that I knew that got when I walked away. And I thought, you know, you can't make this stuff up. And that's what I said. Every day I go out with my guys, or we're at PCAs, we get up, we're exhausted on 3 hours sleep. And I just look at them, and I don't even have to finish it anymore. I just look and I say, yeah, but guys, how tired you are, how grumpy you are, whatever. I said, but are we? And they just look at me and they're like, we're having a hell of a lot of fun. And, you know, I can't say enough about everybody from, you know, just cigar smokers, you guys, to the other cigar guys. I appreciate y'all so much. And I get up every morning and I think, you know, it's that old adage, if you get out of bed and you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Since I got into cigars, people look at me, and I slept an hour and a half last night because, believe it or not, I have a separate finance, you know, business as well and stuff too. People go, how do you do it? And I said, I'm just having so much fun. It's almost like I'm afraid to go to sleep, because I think if I go to sleep, I'm going to wake up and realize it was a dream and it was over. So thank you as well, guys. I mean, I'm having a ball, and you know, the only thing I'm trying to figure out is, you know, I'm looking at the skeletons and I'm looking at Grumpy, and I'm just trying to figure out when I hang up this thing, if, you know, my SSL crew are going to look at me and go, hey, you know, do you think we can get the other 3 guys to outvote him and let us turn him into a skeleton character for Halloween? I mean, I'm just looking, and like I could just see a skeleton with that beard.
We've got a lot of different designs, and of course, Grumpy has always been known for being grumpy out, of course, and dwarfs, and we've made loads of different designs. Even, of course, the T-shirt that Jesse's wearing, that's designed, of course, by me. That was a personal design that I made, and absolutely brilliant T-shirts. We make a lot of T-shirts and a lot of different designs that I bring out, Cigar Gate brings out.
Well, I'll make you guys a deal. I'll send you some cigars if you guys send me some pictures and send me a T-shirt. Because as I said, I put my mouth where my ass is, or vice versa, however you want it, and I support my friends, and I will happily wear your shirt and promote you guys. And I love your stuff. As you know, one of the things when I reached out to you and my guys, you know, I think some of you guys started following some of them when we launched the RingQuest campaign, and I started looking it up, and I thought, you know, I love your logo, and I started looking at some of the other things you were doing. I'm like, these guys got something here. I can see it. I haven't even spoken to them. I'm like, there's an it factor there. There's a fun, creative, good time, and that's like, when we touched base and I was, you guys said, we'd love for you to do it. And I was like, give me the date. I'll put it on the calendar. It's done. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
And
We try to sum our content up with one word, brother. Original.
yep, original.
Yeah, you
That's
never
the
know
thing.
where we're
Yes, and-
coming from, man.
hey, listen, I can't tell you,
This is-
again, I'm not going to say I've done, an uncountable number of interviews and podcasts and media things. But I can say this, I've yet to have one where I got the opportunity to interview the cast and they actually took the time and went around and put real thought and effort into answering questions so that, the audience could get to know you guys as well. And
Hey,
it's
that's
been
why
great.
we're here. It's like you said. That's
So,
why we're all here.
Conversation.
This is the honor cigar. So that's the ring, if you can see it better than the other one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's gorgeous.
Nice.
That's gorgeous. But my next question, and it's a far out question, but I always ask it, of course. And
Oh, I like the
Grumpy and Matthew and
wackier the better.
Jess know where I'm going on this. So
Oh,
5
yeah.
people, alive or dead, that you'd like to sit and smoke a cigar with. So of course it can be anyone from the cigar community to pop stars, film stars, to relatives, but 5 people, alive or dead, that you would like to sit and smoke.
5 people, alive or dead. That I would like to sit and smoke with. Well, right off the top of my head, I could say Winston Churchill. How could you not?
Oh,
As I said,
yeah.
I was a history major. I studied in London. I love English history. The man, he wasn't perfect like anybody else. So, I'm not going to get into specific politics in terms of different things. But I mean, let's be honest, the man was brilliant. He had some great one-liners. He had balls the size of mountains to do what he did. He's a cigar smoker. And I mean, he's got a beautiful bald head. How could I not want to sit and talk cigars and bald heads with a guy like that?
Yeah.
He's the other bald man. In terms of doing that.
What just happened to the black one in the calico?
I'll tell you one that's a little personal, not as famous, is I would love to have the opportunity to go back and smoke one with my grandmother. My mother's mother. She was my mother, who's probably watching, and she's, I'll say 80 plus and was the hit of PCA last year, is going to kill me when I go in after this. Who, is not even 5 feet tall. And my grandmother, I'm not sure was any bigger. And she was the quietest little old lady, carrying around her little pocketbook on her arm. And you would think that she's just this meek little old woman until you find out that she was the first female assistant district attorney in Bronx County. She was a bureau chief, and we've been told by people in that she may have been the first female DA, bureau chief in all of New York, and one of the first in the country back in the 30s and 40s. And she was just smart as a whip, tough as nails, and didn't have to tell you how tough she was or how loud she could be. And unfortunately, before we had a lot of medications and everything else, she passed when I was about 10, 11 years old, before I had that first cigar, which is probably good because my father wouldn't have lived past 13. But, in a day and age when we talk about, women, and women can do anything men can, and being equals and just letting them be who they
Oh, yeah.
are. You know, I think I would have loved to have sat down with her, had a cigar, and just listened to her, you know, bestow wisdom. The third would be Robin Williams. I had an experience a few years before he died. I was at a charity function in San Francisco. It was for, I forget the exact name, but it was for a major, like an ASPCA dog rescue, pets and things out there. And we're at the charity, and the chairman gets up, and they're doing a silent auction. I mean, not silent auction, they're doing a live auction. And, you know, this is a who's who. You know, the mayor of San Francisco is there. I don't know, back when this was happening, you know, Kamala Harris may have been there, but you know, the governor was there. And this guy is bombing. I mean, crickets in the place. And you're just feeling for the poor guy, right? You put on this huge event, all these millionaires, nobody is bidding, nobody's interacting. And all of a sudden, didn't even know he was there. In this room of about 100 people, 150 people, all of a sudden in the back room, you hear, "For fuck's sake, I can't take this anymore. Will you just shut the fuck up and give me the microphone?" And Robin Williams stands up, walks up to the front of the room, grabs the microphone, spins around on the crowd, looks and goes, "All right, listen, you cheap fucks. Every one of you has been robbing us all blind and stealing all of our taxes. And every goddamn one of you has more money in your pocket than I have in my entire bank account. So I know you all can spend $10,000 for this napkin right here." And literally started yelling at them all and said, and they started to laugh. And he starts, turns and looks at everybody and he goes, "Who's laughing, you dumb fucks? This is the first auction item. And I just said, starting bid, $10,000. Don't make me call you out, because the news crews are in the back and I'm going to start calling people out by name." He auctioned that napkin for almost $20,000. He raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, it just, you know,
Jeez.
I think was, and I just looked and I went, my God, this guy is a genius. So let's see. So that's three. You know, four, I got to go with Ben Franklin. Got to go with Big Ben. I mean, let's be honest. The guy was an inventor. He was a writer. He was an orator. He was fat, old, ugly, had nothing going for him. And yet this is the man that created and put together the Declaration of Independence, the basis of everything we have and live for. And sorry, no offense, you know, my British brothers out there, everything else. But let's be honest. I mean, just think of how many bars and booze and alcohol he had to drink, and how many hookers that guy would sleep with, so that we could sit here and smoke cigars and do what we're doing. I mean, God bless the man. If he's not a legend,
Oh, the sacrifices.
you know, and the last one, and I never smoked with him. And if they're watching, I want to do this with you. I have to say, Sugar Ray Leonard.
There you go.
I actually had the pleasure when I was in middle school. I was growing up in Maryland outside of DC, and Ray and his family moved to town, and his son Ray Jr. was a classmate of mine. So, you know, again, talk about an intimidating guy. I mean, you know, let's be honest, that guy could punch me 10 times in the face and I wouldn't even see the first one. And just,
Yeah.
yeah, I the fastest hands I've ever seen in my life. You know, and the nicest person again. You know, the things that he did and the way that he treated everybody, and it was like, you know, you see so many people that say, "Oh, I'm humble," or, you know, "I don't take myself for an ego." You know, I mean, this was a guy that he just, anybody that ever wanted anything from him, he would do. He never took himself seriously. You know, anything for the kids, anybody in town or schools that reached out to him. I mean, I thought the guy that I knew, I was talking to that grew up down there, was telling me the other day. It was one of the funny stories that I heard and I remember as a kid was that Ray, of course, lived in this big house that kind of looked like a modern day castle, and it had a big fence around it. And, any of us that lived in the area, you'd always be sitting there and, what would you do? You'd get these just dorky looking white guys, right? You'd be walking down the road, you're out with your football team, buddies, you're jogging, and after you get a car pull over the side of the road and they'd stop you, they're a mile and a half away. And you knew as soon as somebody pulled over, they weren't asking for directions or gas. It was, hey, can you tell me where Sugar Ray Leonard's house is? And we're sitting there with some of our buddies once and going by. And one of my buddies looks over and Ray is walking out to the front of his gate and like getting the mail, whatever, standing in front. And the guys pull up and he'd never met him and didn't know him. And they said, hey, Ray, how are you? And, again, so nice. He didn't look at him and be like, that's Mr. Leonard to you, you 16-year-old. The kid looked at him and he just says, he looks at Ray and he says, so, Ray goes, I mean, I just got to ask you something, and like what it's like being you. He goes, can I ask you a question? And Ray's looking at him thinking he'd ask me about fighting Marvin Hagler or winning championships. What? He goes, what? This guy on the team looks at him. He goes, I just want to know. He goes, when you're walking outside the front of your house, he goes, do guys ever pull up in front of your house and ask you where Mike lives? And we're all sitting there like, oh my God, he's going to come.
Wow.
He pauses, he just looks at him and he's like, just gets that huge grin that you see in the commercials, looks at him and he just looks at him and he goes, no, but you got to pull that car into my driveway. Come in, I want to talk to you. He goes, that's one of the best things anybody said. And I just, so I think, 5 off the top of my head, those would be 5 I would throw out there. I'll say one of the most enjoyable current experiences, in addition to doing you guys was, I want to say, I guess a month or two ago, I did the Turnbuckles and Stogies podcast with Boss Dog and Joey V. And, I was going to kill them because they do their podcast on a Sunday morning. And I was out at an anniversary party, an hour and a half from home. I didn't even go to sleep. I walked in the door at 3:00. The day before, I text Joey and I said, so when do you want me on? And he goes, well, for the show. And I said, yeah, but what segment? He goes, no. We need you because we had a wrestler who was picking something up. So the whole show, it's 3 hours. And I said, and when do you need to do this? I said, obviously, I can't do this. Just hop it in. He goes, well, yeah, if you could be here by around 8, so we can start filming, that'd be great. And now they live about an hour and a half from me. And I drove up there, and the whole way up, all I was thinking is, man, we're going to get 5 minutes through this. That's about how long it's going to take me to kill these two guys. And I got to tell you, we laughed our asses off for an hour and a half. I had so much fun. And that's another great example. Like, they're sitting there and talking about a guy like me who, worked in New York City and on Wall Street, and they're pro wrestlers. Man, I love those guys. I mean, they're family. And I told them anytime they need me, somebody cancels, give me more than an hour and a half notice, I'll jump in the car and do it anytime. That was one of the best cigars, and probably we talked for 4 hours after we shot that show as well.
That's great.
Jeez. Something, you picked out some great people to smoke cigars with, and I know everyone, of course, has got a great list of people. And we went on about this, of course. It was guys I'd like to sit and smoke a cigar with, and I don't think we ever really got into asking you, Jess, who your 5 were. So, Jess, I'm going to ask, who's your 5? Because we never got around to asking you, my brother, who your 5 would be.
Yeah. My 5. I would have to start out with my great grandmother. Only because, just recently I found out that my great grandmother from my mom's side was a big cigar smoker, and I obviously I never met her, so I had no idea.
How come you
Um,
all those flavored cigars? Come on, man, put some hair on your chest.
you know, being you know, I I'm from Puerto Rico, so I was in the Caribbeans, and cigars were always around, and it it was never a thing where like you just figured out somebody smoked, and so my great grandmother would be the number one person I would like to smoke with. Um, Winston Churchill, like you said, that would be a another one. I mean, he was the envy of other men, when it came to cigars. Everybody, all the men at that time really looked at, you know, how you smoked your cigar, how your cigar looked when you did smoke it, and all that, and he became, you know, a, a a person that most guys were intimidated by just because of the cigars, and he was, so that would be my number two. That would be Winston Churchill. Um, I would have to say for my third person, it might be a little cliche or not, but Arnold, Arnold Schwarzenegger, because Arnold, I mean, who else in the TV world today do you know that is the biggest cigar smoker? I mean, there's no one else other than Arnold, you know.
Jack
So
Nicholson.
absolutely
Jack
Arnold.
Nicholson, my brother.
Who?
Why?
Who?
Jack Nicholson. Biggest
Eh,
Jack Nicholson.
So I'm going to throw
Come on.
something out now that we've all mentioned this a number of times and everything, and I'll give you a little trivia question. That well, let's have a little fun with this. I mean, I'll say it's got to be U.S. based. So can you guys see the comments that people are popping in, or questions they're asking you online?
Yep.
All right. So I will say this. I will send 2 VB cigars to the person who gets this question right first. So whoever's watching it, you guys watch, because I can't see the names come up in terms of doing this. I went to a high school that I believe now there are 2 in the United States. At one point, they changed the name of the other one. When it was named, we were the only high school that had this name in the entire country. And the clue I will give is that it is Cigar High School. And the answer was in the conversation we've had since we started this show. And if nobody
interesting.
can come up with it, I'll tell you what. What? And I'll tell you what. Go ahead and give us your next person you like to smoke with, and if I'll give another clue after that one.
Yeah, now you got me thinking. So, no, the next person, which my brain is all screwed up, and I don't know why. For the life of me, I cannot remember his name. But is the oldest person I know that is passed away now. That you never, there was never a time in TV where you saw him without a cigar. He smoked about 25 cigars a day.
George Burns.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I'm old for a
Yes.
reason.
Hey, that's all right. But you know what I mean? That guy right there, he has smoked so many cigars in his life that I can only imagine the stories that guy can tell while sitting around having a stick. So that would be my other one. And my very last one, which is a person who's still alive and a person who does not smoke cigars, would be my father. You know, I would love to sit around with my dad and have a stick and just enjoy each other's companies. You know, he doesn't smoke. He's never smoked in his life, and you know, and that's great for him. You know, but my father would be the fifth person. Absolutely.
Well, that would be the number one person.
There
Absolutely.
you go.
Got to be the number one. You know, listen,
Yeah.
I can relate to that. As I said,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here because of my father. I mean, you know, people say, you know, you have smells, you have tastes that just bring back memories and old feelings of childhood. You know, people say, oh, it's, you know, cookies, it's the smell of a Christmas tree. For me, it's that smell when you walk into like a really good, clean, well taken care of tobacco shop. You pull open that
Yeah.
humidor, and that smell just hits you. To me, that takes me back, and I am a 5-year-old little boy, you know, going in and used to love running in and, you know, couldn't smoke them, but my dad would let me go in and feeling the cool mist and smelling that smell and sniffing the cigars. And you
Hmm.
know, to this day, I mean, I tell you, when nothing makes me happier than, you know, when Vince and I got together and I sent, or shouldn't say I sent, Vince sent. I called Vince and said before I joined the company, and it was my dad's 80th birthday, and I said, listen, I freaking love your cigars. He's never had them. You know, I know you're not going to let me pay full retail. Like, I want to send him a box. And Vince, of course, turned around and called the guys at you know, our ops guy, who's his brother Jordan, and canceled my credit card and not only sent him the box, but sent him, you know, a whole bunch of monkeys, must have sent him 20, 30 cigars. And it was like, you know,
Wow.
just hearing my dad talk about it and just sitting there listening to him smoke those cigars. I agree with you. That's your absolute number one. Um, so the clue
I
to
think
the
I
question,
think we've got a person.
We got the whiskey cube shot a guess
We've
in there
we've
anyway.
already got an answer. Yeah, Hemingway High
we got a guess.
whiskey tube. Yeah,
Hemingway
Hemingway
High.
High whiskey tube.
Nope, is not Hemingway High. So I'll tell you because I thought of somebody else would be great to smoke with. But the clue to it is at the time, and I believe it may still be the only public school in the United States that is named after a foreign head of state, and the only person that the entire US Congress ever granted absolute citizenship to
Hmm.
without making them revoke or defer their dual citizenship. So the last one I was thinking about, and let's be honest, would be Sean Connery. I mean, that man has been dead for a decade, and he may still be the coolest man walking the planet. I mean,
Yeah.
that guy you talk about didn't have to be, you know, didn't have to show anything. I mean, everything about him. I mean, it doesn't matter. We're guys. I mean, the guy spoke, and he had the coolest voice. Yeah, he was just that guy. Just exuded cool and class in every way possible. And let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
Tell me, and anybody else out there in the world, every guy who ever saw a James Bond movie wants to be him, and every woman in the world wants to be with him. I mean, that's the GOAT. So, you know, To sit there
Yeah.
and smoke
So
with
Whiskey Tubes just shot another one,
So.
and Whiskey Tube says Kennedy High School. So Whiskey Tube's second guest is Kennedy High
That's a nice
School.
guess. I will point out that Kennedy is our head of state, not a foreign head of state. But all right, I'll give out the easy answer. We'll see how fast people can come up with this. We've mentioned his name about 5 times in this podcast, and he is the only politician that has a world famous cigar line entirely named after him and the size of a cigar.
Oh. I know it now.
Yeah, me too.
Has anybody put it in? Come on, guys.
Like I thought
Nope.
I thought
I'm
in the
just-
beginning that
I'm
that
just-
was what it was going to be,
looking.
but then
Come on, Whiskey Tube, get it.
come on, guy.
All right, if nobody's put it in, that's it.
So
Everybody
I
loses.
have just seen a
So we get what do you give?
I have just seen a comment. I have just from H.D. Jarvis. He's put, "Hi gents, the cigar dagger arrived yesterday. Thank you again. Expect you later." So of course, AJ Jarvis is using, of course, the 50 cal cigar pick. So thank you, of
Good
course,
deal.
for tagging us in the post. I did see it pop up. I did, but no one has posted the comment yet. Of course, of what the high school is. I'm just looking on Rumble. I'm just looking on Instagram. And of course on YouTube, and no one's, of course, posted it yet.
I can't believe it.
So I think no one's got it.
Come on, people. That last
All right.
clue, put it in your pocket.
That's clear. Let's make this as easy as we can.
There you
He's
go,
bald.
Tube.
Whiskey Tube.
The
There we
head
go,
of
Whiskey Tube.
There you
6
go,
and
Tube.
7,
Now you're
1 click
talking.
on this thing. We get it?
I think, yeah, Whiskey Tube
Yeah.
got you that time.
Whiskey
Churchill.
Tube and then Cigar Kurt came.
All right, Whiskey, there you go.
Cigar Kurt came in last minute. Cigar Kurt came
Yep.
in last minute and put Winston Churchill on. So,
Yeah.
Yep. So Whiskey
All right.
Tube, of course, you've got it, my brother. You have.
All right, there you go.
So Whiskey Tube, of course, set your address, Whiskey Tube, and then I will pass it over to Michael, of course, and you will get a couple of cigars, my brother, for getting it right, like Michael said. But you know something, we've all picked up different guests, and I've been very thinking about my opinions on who I'd have. One of mine was Ozzy Osbourne. Of course, Ozzy Osbourne being from the West Midlands, like myself, of course, great band with Black Sabbath, his own solo career, avid cigar smoker, of course, until get up. But I'd love to sit with that guy and learn about how the West Midlands was in Birmingham, where he's brought up, because, like I say, I'm in Stoke-on-Trent, which is 30 minutes drive away from Birmingham. And we're in the West Midlands together. And you know something? It'd be, so it's Andrew, of course. Yep, Andrew, I'll get in touch with you on Facebook, my brother. So send me a message on Facebook, and I can send it over, of course. And you know something? Ozzy's rating. Then you look, of course, at Arnold Schwarzenegger. Another great one. You look, of course, I'd always say my grandfather. Now, my grandfather's been dead coming up to 7 years. He never knew I smoked cigars. I kept it hidden. I kept it hidden for a long time from my grandfather, because I know what I would have got. Why are you smoking? It's bad for you. Blah, blah. But my grandfather was a cigarette smoker. But I would have loved to smoke a cigar with him. And then I'd say, of course, properly sitting with Ricky Rodriguez. I'd love to sit with Ricky Rodriguez in a cigar lounge and smoke a cigar with him. But you know something?
Yeah.
With having him on the podcast and smoking a cigar with him, I've got to cross that off my list, because I've done that with him. I've smoked a cigar with him on a podcast. So when I look again, Jack Nicholson is one of them. I'd love to sit down and smoke a cigar with Jack Nicholson. Find out how he came around of getting that in his head to be the Joker, because I'm a big Batman fan. Like I'm wearing now, of course, Batman. And I liked his portrayal of the Joker, of course, in the 1989 Batman film with Michael Keaton. So I'd love to get his workings on how he came up with that. Arturo Fuente, of course, Carlito. I'd like to sit with Carlito and smoke a cigar with Carlito. I've spoken to Carlito a couple of times over the past couple of years. Nice, chilled, easy guy to talk to. look at Jose Blanco, another chilled guy to sit with, smoke a cigar with. I've smoked a cigar before with Jose on a great live that I had with him. He was a really great guy. And there's loads, but we've all picked out ones, and this is what it's about. We all, of course, enjoy cigars. It doesn't matter if you like Cubans, New Worlds, if you like Infused. It's all about getting together, sitting, smoking a cigar, and having that time. And of course, we appreciate you, Michael, spending 2 hours with us tonight on this podcast. It's
Yeah.
a great
The
podcast.
pleasure was
Thank you
all
for being a
mine,
great
guys.
guest.
This has been an absolute blast. I look forward to doing it again, and as I said, we'll get you some
Most
samples, and when we come out with the sleeks in the fall, we will definitely do it again, and go from there.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, and
Yep.
I guess, before we jump, I have to add one thing, because you mentioned you changed the game on us here. You had us mentioning people that were, we're thinking of past legends, and started throwing out some new ones, and I have had the pleasure of smoking a cigar personally with each of those folks you just mentioned, and I couldn't pick one over the other. All fantastic people, but I will say that I do think that there are four more that I want to smoke a cigar with personally, and I'll throw it out there, which is PCA New Orleans in March. Let's do it live. Smoke a cigar. I'll bring the VBs. Let's smoke them live. Do it at the show.
Sounds great.
Yep.
All right.
I'm right.
Sounds
we're
good,
there.
man.
I just got my notices. We've got a booth, so we can do it right at the booth if you guys want. We can broadcast live right from the floor.
Yeah.
We will do it, and
That'd
if
be
they don't
awesome.
let us
Hell
do it,
yeah.
Most definitely.
and we'll do it right from Bourbon Street. I'll call a friend of mine and tell him to get us the balcony.
Sorted.
There you go.
That's really cool, and thank you for that, Michael. You know something, we really appreciate it. We've appreciated this time with you. You know something, you are an honorary member of the Cigar Loons, and thank you. And like I say, can't wait to have you on again. And you know something, please go and follow Michael, of course, at the Bald Man SLS.
Definitely.
SSL. Jeez, go and follow, of course, Ringquest. Go and follow, of course, Dice Society, and please go and check out the content and go and have a look, because you know something, you want to see the posts, how they put the posts out, like Adventurers. They're crazy with different designs, so go and make sure to check them out. Go check them out on Instagram. Go and check out, of course, Vincent Blends, and go and pick yourself one up and smoke it, and let the audience know what you think of it, and go and let, of course, Michael know what you think of it, because he'd love to get some feedback off you. Cigars. And from us, it's a great big thank you. Grumpy, come on, say your words. You know the rigmarole now of how we finish. Go on.
Oh,
So
come on now. Look at. Hey, if Jesus is not driving your bus, brothers and sisters, pull that thing over to the curb. Let Jesus take the wheel. Later.
Yes.
Hey, keep them lit.
Matthew.
Don't start none, won't be none.
And of course, and me, stay smoky, brothers and sisters. And you know something, we'll catch you on the next one. And keep your eyes open, because August, we're coming out with a bang. We are coming out with a bang in August. Make sure to check it. #1 podcast, and you know, Cigar Loons, the invaders of the cigar world. And we'll catch you soon.
That's
Stay
right.
safe. Have a great one. And thank you very much for watching us tonight. We'll catch you soon. See you later.
Cigar Loons podcast. We are the invaders of the cigar world. Cigar Kurt, the front porch cowboy. It's a ginger grizzly bear with a super palate. Cigar Loons, invaders of the cigar world. Grumpy preacher, the conspiracy theory expert. Cigar Loons podcast, come and join us. Vitola and proof expert on all things spirits. Tobacco Genie Stitch, director of special operations. Cigar Loons podcast, we are the invaders of the cigar world. Cigar Kurt, the front porch cowboy, as a ginger grizzly bear with a super palate. Cigar Loons, invaders of the cigar world.